All right. Hello, everybody. How are we? Happy, what is today? Tuesday. Losing track of the week already, and it's already Tuesday. Not a good sign. How's everybody doing tonight? I see we have a pretty big group here tonight. You have a large class. Great, and yourself? Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. It was we had a long day at work today, but it was a good one. Let's get, uh-oh. I see Benjamin is having homework regrets. What happened, man? The minute you turned in your homework, I knew I made some mistakes. What did you do? Let's get my screen up on. There we go. All right. You can all see my screen here, right? We should be looking at lesson 8. Good stuff. Made small errors, but I will learn. I mean, yeah, that's the name of the game, man. I do that frequently. I did that today. Well, I don't know if I made an error. It was we were testing out some of the new content that we have to run through our encoding pipeline, and I found a very particular way to break it. But it's very like, it would take a very specific use case in order to break it. So I was like, man, I kind of wish I hadn't found that, but it's all good. I'm one of the reasons you sign up for the course. That is awesome. That might be the first time I've heard that. That's pretty sweet. Well, anyways, yeah, I'm just rambling. Hello. Sounds like some of you may know me and some of you may not. For those of you that do, hello. And for those of you that don't, well, also hello. My name is Brandon. I'm one of the instructors here in the program, and I'm also a graduate. So I do like to be able to speak about my experiences out in the real world and how they relate to the content that we go over during the lessons. So if you do have any questions, I will do my best to answer them. I'm a bit of a rambler, so I will try to keep myself on pace as much as possible here tonight. So today is lesson 8. So we're going to be talking about testing mobile applications, and then we will be talking about writing test cases. Writing test cases for mobile is, I mean, it's nearly identical to writing test cases for web apps, right? Very little differences. The only things that you want to think about when you're writing the test cases in particular are making sure that in addition to having the hardware and the software sort of information, you want to make sure that you're including app versions. And then you also want to give special consideration to how we test mobile. And we'll get into a little bit of that during the first half of the lesson here tonight. We'll probably get you to the break a little bit early because the first part tends to go pretty smooth. And the second half will be a little bit more interactive. We'll be writing out a couple of test cases, and then we'll also write up a, oh my God, Brandon, use your brain, bug report at the end of that. So we'll jump into Jira real quick as well. So if everybody's good to go, I think we can just kind of get started on this one. I do see one question here. I was at work on Sunday, so I didn't know they gave us homework. So to this user whose name is iPhone, I don't think your homework should be due for probably about another week, but what you'll want to do is go back into your learning space there, check out whatever module you have for, I think it should be lesson 6. Just make sure you get access to that. You should still have a little bit of time to take care of that though. Cool. So as I said, we're going to be talking about mobile testing and mobile test cases tonight. And right off the bat, I like to start out with a big important question. Why do we care? Why is this its own module? Why is this its own lesson? Why do we want to differentiate in between, excuse me, just general web testing and then mobile testing? And I think I just inhaled something, so that was fun. The numbers that support mobile usage, right? These are right here up on the screen. So this is some quick data that I pulled because of just the increasing growth and demand for this. So in the US, if we just talk sort of insular within the United States, about 290 million smartphone users in the US alone, which that constitutes the vast majority of the population. About 85% of adults have at least one smartphone. And that's here in the US. If we want to expand that, give me a, sorry, I got something in my throat. If we want to expand that out globally, we're looking at 6.6 billion smartphone users worldwide. So we in the US are about on par when it comes to usage percentage. So, right, 83% of the planet, 85% of US adults are using smartphone devices. No surprise, right? Nobody's shocked by this information. The interesting thing here, and this actually plays into, several people are pointing this out. Manuela, you make a very good point. Let's see. And then Lori says, because mobile is a big part of the market. This is true. Beyond that, Manuela, you've had a good point here, saying not everybody has a computer, but most people have a cell phone. And this becomes incredibly relevant when we get into lesser developed areas worldwide, where they're not going to be like the American user that has like a MacBook and a cell phone and an iPad and a couple of other devices. So that plays into this third statistic here, which I found very interesting, which was the projection is that 72% of all internet users globally will solely access the web via mobile by 2025. That's not far away, right? That's very close to where we are right now. And when we're talking about sole access, and well, this is playing into what you were saying. Not everybody has a computer, but most people have a cell phone. And in lesser developed areas, in these nations, if they're going to have a device that accesses the internet, probably going to be a phone. It's probably going to be an Android phone, and it's probably going to be a not current gen Android phone, to be very, very specific. So these numbers are very interesting. I think about how I use the internet, and you can think about this yourself as well. How do you access content? Are you 50-50? Do you get some on a TV, some on your phone, some on your computer? How do you consume content? And then think about the push towards the mobile lifestyle, whether it be, like digital nomad work or having wearables, right? Your smart watches, smart glasses, monitors, so on and so forth, virtual reality. This is all really pushing towards portable mobile content consumption, and in turn, content creation as well. So that 72% of all users solely accessing the web in the next couple of years is pretty wild. And then this second chart over here, the time spent with non-voice activities on mobile phones. This is over the last 5 years. So we're starting to get into 2023. You can see that it's going up. This is no surprise. It's an average of just over 4 hours a day with non-voice activities, which one says, y'all need to stop doing so many things online. But like, we're all consuming a tremendous amount of content, but it's also how we communicate with people, right? Most people text. Most people are going to be on whatever chat platform of their choice, and that's how they're communicating. More than voice. Phones used to actually be used as phones at some point. But yeah. Moisey says, why do you think it will be most likely be an Android phone? Because Android platform is a much higher usage worldwide than just in the US. The Apple ecosystem, iPhones, that's very much an American-centric thing. Do they exist in the world? Yes, absolutely. But we can talk about that a little bit more in depth. The short answer is iPhone is marketed primarily to the US market. Androids are available everywhere in the world. The devices are available everywhere in the world. But more importantly, the Android operating system is open source. And so developers are able to access it, create things easier. And so it just becomes more accessible on a global platform. Yeah. So if we look at, I don't think I have, well, I'll see if I have it in here. Let me just cheat and go ahead. Nope, I don't think I do. I was thinking if I have another chart, we could pull up a chart very easily and look at number of Android users worldwide versus iPhone users worldwide. It's a staggering difference, and that will continue to be that way. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Matt, that is true. Android does have the market worldwide, and it's because Apple, they want the iOS ecosystem to be insular. They want to have control over it. To be fair, they make very good devices. Like I do, like, this thing doesn't stink, right? But at the end of the day, I'm still absolutely an Android guy, and that's probably never going to change. But and Matt, yeah, actually, Matt, you have a good point. I think that was in the last lesson. I was trying to think of where do I have that chart, but yeah. So let's talk about the differences. Again, we're trying to figure out, why do we care? Why are we talking about mobile specifically? And the differences, not an exhaustive list, but some things to consider here, right? When you're testing web clients, this is accessing via an internet browser, and the content that you're consuming is going to adapt to whatever device you're viewing it on. Sounds like a mouthful, right? But it's just, think about, you can have a laptop of any size that you want, and you're on a web browser, and the content fits in that web browser. Cool. It probably also works on an iPad. It works here on this computer. It works on this second massive monitor. That's the content adapts. And very important, we're typically checking the function of the client only, meaning if you're browsing on Safari, or you're on Chrome, or you're on Firefox, largely you're checking the function of that client, of that browser, to make sure that the content is handled correctly, and it's being content is being presented elegantly, user information is transferred page to page, so on and so forth. So there's that. And then we would do a lot of our checks with web clients on dev tools. Of course, there are other tools to use, but using dev tools, that's why I prefer using Chrome when I'm doing testing in QA. It is just formatted. It just looks and feels much better to use that there. And then when you're accessing different environments, you would be accessing those typically via different URLs. I believe you may know this already, but if you don't, when we're working on a product or an application, well, let's not say application, let's say like a web app or a website or something like that, you will access different versions of that site depending on what stage of the release you're in. So developers first start off in their dev environment, developers environment. That's like their sandbox. They're kicking around code and trying to make sure that things work initially. Once things work there, they will then move those out to the QA environment. And that's typically where we first get our hands on it. From there, you will be able to do some deeper regression tests. You'll be doing some newer testing. Once things check out there, you may move it out to a production environment, or you may move it to a staging environment. And that's where you sort of do final checks, making sure that everything's clicking and working, and then you move it out to production. For a website, those are all going to be different URLs, right? So it might be blah, 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 .qa, blah, blah, blah. And that's going to be a different iteration of the website than what clients are consuming. So that's going to be the big difference there. Let's contrast that with mobile clients. So things that are on your phones, right? The application is loaded directly onto your device, as opposed to you going out and accessing it with a web client, right? So no Chrome. Yes, you have mobile browsers as well. You can do that on your phone, but chances are you're using apps. So you're loading that directly onto your device. Which 5 points, who in the chat can tell me the 2 file types that we would be loading up, whether it be iOS or Android? Woo! Speedy people. Who got there first? Connor got there first, shortly followed by Jordy, Deirdre, and Fatima. I'm gonna be real honest with you. We play by whose line rules. The points don't matter. So you get 5 points. Do what you want with them. But nice. Glad you remembered that. So that's the first difference right there. Applications are loaded onto the device. The second thing would be different environments can be accessed within the app directly, or you would be loading new build versions of the application to test out. The use cases for these will vary slightly, but if you're accessing within the app, chances are you'll load the app, and then on the login screen, there's a way to get to a secret menu, and you can switch environments within there. And that's how you go about testing in the QA environment on a market build. If you don't follow me, again, I'll hit that real quick. the version of an application that you download from the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, that's considered the market version of your application. So should you download that version, it's going to have what is publicly available to customers and consumers. That it's going to have that code base. You can then go in there and access different testing environments. So like your staging environment or your QA environment to test things out. So that's one way of accessing new things. The other way you might test a mobile client is if you have, you've pointed out a series of bugs to the engineers, they have a fix for that, or they have several fixes that they have rolled into a new RC of the app, a new release candidate for the app. They will then say, all right, Connor, download this latest version to the phone, and that's what you're going to be testing on, because that has the latest code that has all of our most recent fixes in it. So a couple different ways that you can access that. Make sense? And then also, this is going to include the testing of hardware tests. So we fundamentally use phones and laptops or desktops differently. We all know this. We probably just don't stop and think about it too much. And that's what I'm going to invite you to do here tonight for a couple of minutes. So many people, IPA, APK. So Connor asks, both web and mobile clients are requesting a copy of the website via the server, correct? So they are both accessing the web the same way. Connor, that is true if you're using like mobile browser or web browser. That is correct. If you're using an app, of course, the behavior is different. There's a lot more like, it's localized content. Sure, it may, need to go out and send requests for data and get return data, so on and so forth. But you're doing in the interface of an app, which is written with a different language. It's, it's an entirely different code base, which maybe this came up last lesson, but we're all aware, right, that like a mobile app, God, what do I hate right now? Duolingo, that owl, he kills me. The Duolingo app on iOS and Android, they're written in different languages. The end result looks the same, like they should do the same stuff for you. But they are written in entirely, one of them is probably Swift, and I would imagine the other one's like Kotlin or something like that. So just fundamentally different things. Anyways, when we use our phones, we're testing things and we're using it in ways that are different than maybe what the layperson gives much consideration to. And so we're going to open this up for a few minutes here. This is interactive portion number 1 for tonight. Sorry, before I cruise past anybody here. Faven, I'm going to butcher your name here. What's the main difference between them? When you say them, do you mean web versus mobile? Or do you mean like Android versus iOS? I may have dumped too much information on you there. But yeah, I just want to give you a chance here for a second. Let me know which one of those things are you looking for a difference between the web client versus mobile client. I wanted to, okay, yeah. So I pulled the screen back up here. Main differences, okay? The way that you access the content. So web clients, you're on a browser and you're accessing the content on the browser there. It's not like installed on your machine, right? Versus on a phone, like you download an app to this phone, and that's primarily how you're accessing most things that you're doing, and especially what you're going to be testing. When you go to a company, say you work for Bank of America, you may, poke around on the mobile browser, but chances are you're going to be using their app, right? So that's a big difference. Second big difference, how we access different environments. On a web, it's just different URLs versus on a mobile device. You may access it through a secret menu, or you're going to have to load new build versions onto your device, which you don't have to do on your computer, right? You don't have to load different, you don't load different versions of Chrome onto your computer to test, right? And then the final thing would be what exactly you're checking. With a web client, you're basically checking the function of the client. So does Firefox do this stuff right? Does Safari do this stuff right? Mobile clients, you're also going to be including hardware tests. So glad you asked, and totally fine. If anybody needs to dip back in there for a second, we can do that. So I want to open it up for like 5 minutes here. So this will require some creative thinking. Everybody here has heard of a little website called YouTube, right? I'm assuming. If you've never heard of YouTube, let me know in the chat, and I'll fall out of my chair. So let's see. Deirdre asks, will we have both sets of testing normally while employed? Oh, that's a good question. So you likely yes. Likely yes, you're going to be doing web testing and mobile testing. You may focus on one more than the other, and that kind of just depends on the team that you're assigned to, the project that you're working on, and you may just really stay focused. I have found recently I've done very little mobile testing specifically outside of just content checks. I do plenty of content checks on mobile, but as of late, I haven't done much like hooking up to Charles and looking, looking at logs like that. I've just been doing more content checks, and then my work has been dealing more with video processing specifically. But you'll get everything sent to you, right? Like, I mean, everybody should send you one of these, right? And then they'll send you whatever devices that they expect you to test on. So, Abdul, get out of here. Get out of my house. So yeah, we're going to be talking about how do you use a phone. And the reason that I bring up YouTube is I think everybody knows what YouTube is and how to use it. So over the next 5 minutes, I want you to give me some ideas of checks that you would execute if you worked for Google, well, YouTube, a la Google. If you worked for them and you were responsible for QA testing the YouTube mobile app, what would you check? And this is going to become an open forum. I have given you, he just jumped on my gimme. I had some low hanging fruit here. I was really hoping somebody could identify that we do want to check. Yes, landscape and portrait modes. We want to make sure, and this goes for other applications as well, but YouTube is just a very easy one for us to visualize this in, right? When playing content, does your phone elegantly handle that transition between portrait and landscape mode? If you do it repeatedly, does it freak out or can it handle it? Check if crashed. That's awesome. You may try to find a way to crash it. Yes. Yes. Number one functionality. Ben, correct. Do videos play? Absolutely. JB, I would not say that you're saying verify that video captions can be edited. I would dare say that might not be a principal action that we would check on YouTube. Very niche, very specific. But if you want to say like verify that we can switch between language closed captions, subtitles, if that's supposed to be available, that would be sure. That would be something for sure. So many answers. I need to be able to scroll through. I guess, yeah. This is the first class that actually very quickly jumped on the creator components of YouTube. We've got some innovative people here. It's nice. If the user can sign in, sure, yes. Do the functions work on the screen? And I think, Connor, if we expand that, do all of the interactive components work, right? So all of the buttons on the touchscreen, do those work? Yes. We can also include that to be dragging things, tapping things, long pressing things, certainly. And that's kind of why I gave you this little dot right here. All the touchscreen stuff, let's make sure that works for sure. Searches, yes, we want to make sure we can search correctly. Let's see. We have a lot of people saying stuff here. I want to give, yeah, Idris, scrubbing through videos, very, very true. Yeah, there's the other functionalities within YouTube. So commenting, liking, subscribing. Yes, all the things that you're supposed to do if you're a good YouTube viewer. Who said it? Someone said the thing that I was hoping that they would say. Idris, you said it, volume. So you said the word volume. I would ask you to expand on that. How would we check volume? And you know, I mean, I'm Idris, I'm calling you out, but I'll open this up to people as well. How would we check volume? Jordy, the speaker. I mean, dang it, you're not wrong. Cool. All right. We have multiple iterations of basically what I'm looking for, right? When we're testing this, we would want to check the in-app controls. So the slider, can you use the touch slider and drag it up and down? Also, can you use the volume rocker and adjust the volume up and down? Very true. I wanted to call that out because that's one of the things that is specific to how we would be testing mobile devices. When you're checking like a web app, if you go to a website and you're doing your content checks there, you do not need to include the volume buttons on your computer as part of those checks. That has nothing to do with the website whatsoever. The interactivity of the rocker buttons, the physical buttons on your phone with the app, that is part of a test that you would want to conduct. So I'm glad you said that, and it sort of opened the door for me to be able to ask that question. Let's see. I got a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, this is the biggest class I've seen in a while, but you're also very involved, and I love that. Let's see. Can you change the quality of the videos? Yes. Commenting? Yes. You were able to comment without having a username. You are sneaky. Swiping from one screen to the next. That's a really good, and that can be extrapolated upon. So swiping, you know, what swipe functionality do you have on your phone? I'm sure everyone can do this. If you have a video playing in portrait mode and you swipe it down, does it load the mini player at the bottom appropriately? And can you still do background activity? If you have the video playing there and you swipe up, what should happen, right? It should be full screen. You know, does it handle that function elegantly? You may also be able to go through a playlist, you know, and using your next button, back button, swiping, things like that. So the app specific swipes and functionalities, those are really good things. The camera, yes. The camera is part of YouTube. If you are planning on, you know, doing some sort of a live stream or recording a reel, you know, some video interactive component, you want to make sure that that camera function is working correctly. And this also brings up another thing too. Different apps or when your phone is in a different state, different buttons can do different things. And the easiest one to think about is the volume rocker, right? If you don't have the YouTube app loaded, and nothing is operating on your phone, and you press the rocker button up and down, your volume button, we know that adjusts what? Manuela, yes, the phone volume, and specifically Deidre, yes, the ringer. So the alerts, the notification sounds, correct. If you are in a phone call and you do the same thing, it does not do the same thing, right? It now controls the volume of that call, the audio coming out of the earpiece. If we are in YouTube and you volume rocker up and down, it no longer is immediately defaulting to system sounds. It is now defaulting to the app sounds, right? So that's a situation where the environment that you're loaded into has an impact on hardware tests. So that's an important call out for sure. Yes, full screening, yes. Can you send videos? Yes. Can you save videos? Yes. Yeah, saving or downloading, yep. Karen, you wouldn't really perform load testing. That is an interesting call out, but yeah, load testing is something that is done by automation QA people. We don't do that because you don't have enough fingers and buttons to be able to load test that thing. The ads are always obnoxiously loud. That's true. And that's why I'm a snob and I pay for premium. Let's see. Yes. What else do we have? More volume buttons. I think we hit most of the things that I wanted to see. Sure. Can you pair it with other devices? Yes. You can use external speakers. Yes. Can you cast content? Yes. Can you send, can you be playing a video and then send it out over AirPlay or Chromecast, screen share, something like that. Yeah, what else? Can the video minimize? Yes, correct. The Connor says, so device functions on web, not important. Device functions on an app, very important. I would say, yeah, more important, correct. When you're testing content on a web browser, it's really like the function of the client, meaning the browser itself. The controls on your computer are not really considered part of those checks. On mobile device, yes, they are. Fatima, great call out. Using the YouTube app in a different language. So yeah, if you change your system settings to now it's Spanish or anything, Spanish, French, Italian, Farsi, whatever. Does it handle that change? Is all of the content presented in the way that it is expected to be presented? It's a really good call out. Fritz asks why. So the big question: why are the rocker buttons part of a mobile test, but the volume up and down on a laptop is not? And it's because that functionality is more built into the application itself. There's more of a command of like, what is it supposed to do? It is relative to that app. Again, remember, if you're playing content in the YouTube app and you volume rocker up and down, it's the volume of that content being played. If the app is closed, it's the volume of your system sounds, right? Your volume up and down button on your keyboard on your computer is a sort of entirety sound control, right? Someone said the right thing that I was looking for. Okay, yeah, a combination of these two things. Sandra says, being able to exit YouTube and return to normal screen. So this would be called backgrounding the app. Very good call. And I want to mix that with, oh my God, who said it? Lee, yes. Verify if the video will play while the phone is asleep. So if you have that functionality, then yes, we should expect that you can you can sleep the screen, you can hit the power button, turn off the screen, and content should continue to play. On the other side of the coin, if you have like the standard consumer version of it, I don't think that's supposed to happen. And so if you hit the power button, I believe content should stop playing. So those two things are really good call outs. Yeah. Anthony's favorite comment of the night. Oh, you got money. Yeah, I mean, no shame. I've been paying for premium for, I don't know, 2 years. It is absolutely, YouTube is the most used app on my phone. So absolutely, I will pay to not have ads. I'm such a snob now. But okay, so before we go down into like a YouTube fan club, you've all done a really good job of calling out a large list of things that you would want to check. And I think we hit just about all of the things that I would want to be looking for. So in this thought exercise that I've conducted with you, nicely done. Things that we'd want to check. These are things that I would include in a standard test run, things that I would want to be looking for. Hardware controls. So physical hardware controls. This does include the power button. This includes the rocker button. That's pretty much what you have for your physical hardware controls. You could, I wouldn't, but one could say, well, touchscreen is hardware because the touchscreen itself is hardware. It's glass and it has that conductivity, blah, blah, blah. I would consider that to be more within the in-app controls, like touching the screen and hitting the buttons. There's a debate somewhere out there on the internet. But hardware controls physical and hardware controls digital. I don't think anybody called this out actually, but a digital hardware control, this would include cellular connectivity and Wi-Fi connectivity. So within the app, if you're playing content and you're connected to Wi-Fi, what happens if I turn off the Wi-Fi and I switch over to cellular data? Does it handle that switch over gracefully? And then on the flip side, what if I'm using my cellular network and then I cut that off, turn off my cellular connectivity and then only have Wi-Fi, right? What if I put it in airplane mode? What happens to the content that's playing? The reason that this is a hardware control via digital control is because we're controlling the antenna being on or off, that ability to get that data in there. That's a digital control of hardware. Just fun fact. All of your in-app controls. So yes, all of the multitude of touch buttons and liking and smashing this button and commenting on that. Yes, that's all needs to be checked. Phone orientation. That was the first thing that got called out. And I'm very glad that someone said that. This holds true for YouTube and it's easy for us to visualize that, but this also holds true for many other apps. You want to see if the app is supposed to be able to handle or tolerate orientation changes. Can it do that? I will tell you at my company, well, the one that I work at, I don't own it. Whenever we update the video player, we want to run these checks because there absolutely have been times where you're playing the video and it's like, oh, great. Okay, I loaded it like this. Cool. And the video dies. Not a good time. So we need to be able to look for these things. We take these things for granted as like, of course, this should always work, but you always want to be checking these things. These last three, people don't always get these. And I think this group was pretty quick to catch these. So the PIP, picture in picture, meaning when you're playing a video on your phone, if you minimize it and you have this ability, should it open up the picture in picture, the mini player? And then can you still do activity in the background while that player is going? That's a really good check. Not every app has a picture in picture component, but if it does, if it's part of the documentation and the acceptance criteria, you want to be able to check that. Okay. Another one, I forget who said this. It was Lee or, gosh, was it Deidre? I forget who said this, but backgrounding the app, meaning bring that app down. Like, say you're playing a video, great, put it completely in the background, go, open up your Gmail or your email server, send out an email, come back to it. What happens? Can you resume your activity there? Is it supposed to resume your activity? A great contrast to that, I've jumped between banking app and YouTube app, right? We would all love if YouTube would just continue to do what it was doing in the background, even if you minimize the app and then you go away from it and come back in 5-10 minutes. It's like, oh yeah, just keep playing the stuff. Or if it's not playing it and you pick it up, you would like it to resume where you left off. In a banking app, in my Chase mobile app or something like that, I don't want it to remember what I was doing. If I minimize the app and leave it alone for 10 minutes, I damn well hope that thing has logged me out. I don't want it to be remembering my login information for half an hour, anything like that, right? So principal differences between how it handles that background activity. So someone called that out in our exercise here, and that was really good. And then finally, sleeping the phone. Same thing, just with more of like a harder reset. Sleeping your phone, just meaning like, yeah, it's on, and then like, okay, it's going, let's boop, turn that off, leave it alone for 10 minutes, leave it alone for 15 minutes, come back to it. What happens? Can it pick up where you left off? And is it supposed to? So those are all things that I would be thinking to check. in the real world, okay, we will be using real devices for testing. And so if your company expects you to be doing Android testing, they're going to send you a device. If they expect you to be testing iOS, they'll send you an iPhone. If they expect you to be doing, well, every company should just send you a laptop by default. Okay. We will be using real devices for that. The only exception to this is if you were using an emulator. So we're saying emulators for visuals. In the second half of this, I'll open up an emulator for you real quick so you can see what I would be doing on a phone if I was going to be testing an app. Because otherwise I would look very foolish, just like holding up a phone to the screen, like, look what I'm doing. Not a good time. So I'll use an emulator for that. The only exception to that rule that I would really stand by would be using browser stack for versioning. So you remember a couple slides ago when I said you wouldn't load up multiple versions of Firefox, or you wouldn't load up multiple versions of Chrome on your computer, right? That's silly and it doesn't make sense. But you can use browser stack to emulate an earlier version of these browsers, and you can check what's called backwards compatibility. So right now, Chrome is, I think Chrome's on version 109. So that's the current version. And if anyone has updated their browser, they're on version 109. But not everybody updates at the correct time, right? Like we all know those people, maybe we are those people that don't update things when they should. And so you're just chilling on version like 105. And it's like, why? But people do this, and you need to be able to check and make sure that the applications work on these earlier versions. So that is a thing. Just go to browser stack and open up a different version of a browser. You can also be on Chrome and test what it would be like on Firefox or Edge or something like that. A lot of the times, a lot of testing that you'll be doing on mobile, I don't want to say all of the time because this is not true, but a lot of the times we'll be doing a lot of exploratory testing on the app. So it definitely is advantageous. You'll be conducting your testing. Someone will give you test cases to run. Of course, you do that. If there's like a testing call, do the things on that call. But some regular exploratory testing of your mobile devices is a good idea because there's oftentimes little updates that get pushed out and you want to make sure that everything is still working correctly. Oh, people are self-reporting. The non-updaters in the call, unbelievable. And then finally, when you find something that is not up to expectations, so like if the actual results do not meet the expected results, of course, we have to write a bug report, right? How does everybody feel about writing bug reports? You feel pretty confident with that? Nice. Cool. So Kelsey, sure. Kelsey had asked, could I explain an emulator really quickly? Yeah, it just, a virtual device, an emulation of something is like a mimicking of something, right? So when we go over this, I'll pop this open in the next one. Let's see. Okay, I'll tell you what, let me get through this one super quick and then I'll pop open an emulator. But it's basically just like, think of it as a virtual device that we're just going to be using for visuals only. I would use an emulator to demonstrate some stuff. I wouldn't load a new version of an application onto an emulator and do that. Pretty much it. But like if you were going to be testing web, you can use something like browser stack to emulate a different browser. That's pretty much it. I'll pop one open here so you can see what it looks like. But final thing I want to touch on here before we go into our break, which as promised, we're a little bit early. Do not miss this next step in your learning space. So you're going to have this module pop up in your learning space. There's an intro to Chrome DevTools. We use Chrome DevTools all the time in our testing. So that's something that you want to get a little extra practice with. So there's a video here or a presentation here. You've got Yuri's face on there. So make sure that you grab that and you're able to review that content. Good stuff. Now let's see. Oh, let's see. I wanted to bring that down. Sorry, let me. actually didn't need to stop sharing my screen. That was very silly of me. Let's go to browser stack. You're going to go slow. So here's browser stack. Yay. You know, if we look at Chrome right now, and I say like, oh, like I said, about Google Chrome, we're on version 109 right now. Okay. But if I want to backwards test Chrome and make sure, they also have the beta and the dev version up here. But if I want to go backwards and see if an earlier version of this still works, I would just fire that up in here. I would also, if I wanted to test out Opera, there's many backwards compatible versions there, Firefox, so on and so forth. Chrome, or not Chrome, Safari, you know, they think they're fancy. So they don't give you backwards compatible versions to test. but there's that. And then, so Sandra, yeah, emulators function like a regular device on the computer system, but I would not use them as a reliable testing resource, except for this, like except for a browser. What I was talking about is going to be, we're going to need this for the second half of the class tonight. But if I come in here and I go to my virtual device manager and I fire up an emulator, check it out. Here's a phone. I would not recommend using this phone for your actual testing. But if I want to show you things like, hey, if I'm on my phone and I go to my apps and, you know, open up this or that, or swipe up and here's my menu, stuff like that. This is something that I would say, yeah, use an emulator for this. Sounds good? Those are pretty much the examples that I would want to do. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, cool. I just wanted to make sure that I caught everybody. Good for demonstration, not testing. Yeah, your developers might use an emulator to do quick tests on their own, but we want to test on real world devices. Again, your company will send you the device that you want to be testing on. That's the end of my sentence. So we have arrived at break a little bit early. It's 6:18. Let's give you the full 10. Get a little breathing room, stretch your legs out. So at 6:28, I will not ring a cowbell. I'm just going to yell loudly. Okay, Jordy, technically it's 6:19. You're right. Okay. We got some East Coast boys over here. Yeah. Yes, time zones are a thing. I am born and raised on the East Coast. I understand how these things work. But yes, I decided I didn't want to live in Boston anymore. So I moved to LA. Warm weather is nice. I don't like shoveling snow. So now we're pushing into another minute. Let's say, well, what the heck? I'm feeling generous. We can even round it up to 6:20 or 7:20 or 8:20 or 9:20, wherever you live. Come on back at 6:30 West Coast, 9:30 East Coast. Cool? I see blasphemous. All right, get out of here. I'll see you in 10 minutes. All right, all right. I think pretty much everybody should be back. Jeez. How many people are in this class in total? This is hands down the largest class that I've seen so far. Woo! A hundo. 90 to 100. That's wild. I mean, that's great. I love seeing the interest in it. It's fantastic. Normally I see classes of like 30 people. So just make sure I got all the questions from before the break, before we move on. Got a couple of Boston people in here. Nice. I did leave. I don't know if I'll move back, but that is my home. That's cool. Nice. What part of Boston are you in? For the people that are. I was, for a long time, I was in Dorchester. I was in Savin Hill. And then I moved into the South End for like 5 or 6 years. And then I decided I would come out here. Central, that is not Boston. Central Mass. What are you, like near Worcester or something? And Fatima's in the North End. Very nice. I love me some good North End Italian food. Central Mass, unbelievable. These are, I guess if you're not from there, that means nothing to you, but it's that's totally a Massachusetts thing to say. It's like, well, I'm from Boston. And it's like, well, technically I'm from Woburn. Or like, you know, I'm from Boston. Or like, you know, technically I don't know, down in Plymouth or something. I know, I'm shaming you. No, you're good. You're good. You know, people from all over in here. That's awesome. Yeah, one of the things that I like about tech is the ability to work with people from a very, very diverse background. I had before getting into QA, I had spent about a decade in the fitness industry. So I was, you know, doing personal training and stuff, but then I was running teams of trainers and then helping open up gyms in and around the Boston area. And then I spent another 5 years doing like real estate, property management, sales, a lot of sales stuff. I think most of my life was sales oriented. And then I realized that was kind of a soul suck because I was directly graded on whether or not I had hit my numbers for the last month, which is not really like a great validating way to live life, in my opinion. So I wanted to try something else. And that was when I found, well, I kind of decided I would pivot into tech because I'm a nerd, and then found QA. It was like, I can get paid to tell people when they did something wrong. Awesome. Sign me up. Let's see. Everybody's calling out where they are from. Very cool. A couple of people in the DFW. I do like, I like Dallas. I was in Dallas for a little bit. Well, see, now I'm doing it. Technically, I was in Addison, but around Dallas. So that was a cool spot. Yeah, I think I got everybody's questions from before the break. I just wanted to make sure I didn't sort of leave anything hanging. I think we covered everything pretty well. I was asked what color my Bugatti is. Unreal. Yeah, I'm actually, I mean, as of right now, I don't even have, I sold my car because don't even need it. I gotta just like to scoot around LA, honestly. But all right, cool. Before I get very excited by where everyone is from, let me put my screen back up on here. Cool. All right, so you should all be able to see the screen here. So we're going to be talking about writing test cases. We'll move through this relatively quickly, I would say. I don't think the test case creation is tremendously complicated to understand. But that being said, I don't want to like blow people over here. So if we miss any part of this, please let me know. We will backtrack and reiterate. But I think it's a pretty straightforward process. And this so far has felt like a pretty bright class here. Did everyone get kicked out? I hope not. Keisha had asked if everybody got kicked out. I hope that's not true. Cool. All right. No, I still see 90 people. All right. Maybe that was just a bit of a fluke. So what we want to talk about is writing test cases. And the way that we write test cases follows a pattern. It follows a formula. It's very repetitive. And as long as you can understand the pattern of what you're looking to do, it's very easy. So what we'll do tonight, I think, testing Google Photos is probably the easiest thing for us to test, right? It's a photo album. Everybody knows how this thing is supposed to work. Everybody has taken a photo on their phone and they have a decent understanding of what the heck they do with all the photos that are stored in there, right? So let's use Google Photos as our example here. And so when you're writing a test case, you very likely are going to be doing this in TestRail, which is a different platform that you would be writing these things in. But for the sake of demonstration, we can just use Google Docs. Now, some companies actually do use this. It's very easy. It's very formulaic. So if we wanted to test a variety, let's say, again, we still are employed by Google, but they took us off of YouTube and they said, now you're going to be testing out the photos or whatever. So let's check out some Google Photos. The easiest thing that we would want to be able to check is, can I see photos in Google Photos, right? So if I were to start from here, if I said, all right, let's verify that someone can open a photo in Google Photos, you just sort of mindlessly go like, yep, tap on the thing, here's my photo. But if we want to pretend that you're handing this phone over to someone that's never used this application before, and Google Photos is a very simplistic explanation of this. In reality, you will be at your company and you'll have your application for that company. Someone may have never used that app before. And the way that I like to describe test case creation and bug tickets is either the explain it like I'm 5 principle or the hold my hand principle. Either one of these gets the point across, right? But you want to make sure that you're very precisely getting someone to the end point that they are supposed to reach. So the explain it to me like I'm 5. Don't assume that anything is a given within reason. 5-year-olds have some logic. Or the hold my hand principle. So just make sure that your instructions are very clear and precise. So if I wanted to say, verify that a user can, what would I say? View a photo in Google Photos. Cool. This would be my test case title. And you can see prior to this, I have our product name in the test case. So obviously it's Google Photos. The test platform. You don't need to put a version of the app here. But I would just say, for the sake of clarity, we're doing this on a Pixel 5 and it's running Android 10, okay? Which is what this emulator is running over here. So if we want to say that the test case title is verify that a user can view a photo in Google Photos, the next thing we want to give consideration to is a precondition. A precondition is something that needs to have happened or be in place before you can execute this test case, okay? Now, in this case, I think we can all get this, right? What would be a precondition for us being able to view a photo in Google Photos? And I'll give you a hint, it's blindingly obvious. And it is not that you need to have a Gmail account. J bigness. Sorry, I'm flubbing that. You are correct. A photo. You can't view a photo if you don't have a photo, right? Like I said, blindingly obvious. And you're like, oh, yeah, duh. But we would want to say at least one photo in Google Photos. Yeah. So that's our precondition. The user must have at least one photo in Google Photos. I did. Nice. Got your last name perfect. Chris, okay, yes. So Christopher says, but you need to have the app before you have the photo. No? Yes, you do. We will consider that exceedingly obvious, and that is outside of the scope of dumbing it down. If you are going to test the app, we assume that you have the app. Very true. But we'll take it up just a level from that sort of level of obvious. And right above that level of obvious is, well, I need to have a photo. Because if I have no photos in my album, how may I verify that a user can view a photo? Jessa, mucho gusto. So steps to do this. You saw what I did. Very, very easy. And this is just sort of a, let's make sure we understand how to play the game, right? Steps. We want to make sure that we can lead somebody to this end results. And this is a very easy use case. So let's say on your device, and this is Chris, to your point, like this is it feels dumb, but it's because we're explaining something that's very easy to do. In reality, when you have your company's app and you're testing it, it gets a little bit more in depth than this. But I would say like on your device, tap the Google Photos icon and tap on a photo. This is probably the steps that I would put in my test case, right? So on my device, tap the Google Photos icon. Ding. Cool. Tap on a photo. Ding. There's my photo, right? Awesome. That's it. That's my test case. And then we want to put our expected result. Now the difference, well, there are several differences, but a primary difference between a test case and a bug report or a bug ticket. We put expected results on a test case. We do not put actual results on a test case, okay? And I want to be clear about that. When you're writing out test cases, you are going through the user's flow to verify something that's in the test case title. You want to verify that thing. The expected result is that test case title effectively, but we don't put actual results into a test case, okay? So the expected result, and this is the other part of the formula. Remember I said this is formulaic. This is very easy to repeat. Your expected result should very closely mirror your test case title. If I said, verify that a user can view a photo in Google Photos, and you put as the expected result, user is able to share a photo, we have a disconnect. Those do not line up. We are not achieving what the test case title set out to accomplish. So the expected result, can view a photo in Google Photos. Ding. Cool. Now, because this is part of a larger template, I do have a pass-fail kind of column over here. That does not play into us writing out a test case. So you can see that the language here is nearly identical. It's basically everything after verify that, and then whatever it is that you said, right? That's it. This is the flow for writing a test case. Okay. Yeah, I have a couple people, yes, pointing out, where would the pass fail come in on a test case? Like when you're writing a test case, it does not. Where that comes into play is when you are executing a test case, when you are actually on the job, right? Because we all say, well, how do you do this job? You're going to be given test cases to check, to execute, to verify. You want to verify that, blah, 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 blah. When you go through, when you're doing this, what's called a test run or a test flow, you're going to give those a pass or a fail. And as you check a test case and the expected result matches the actual result, then you say, yeah, this passed, and I move on. That's how we check that things are ready to be deployed and move forward into the next stage, right? So the developer will have made a series of changes to the code. We go in and make sure that the actual results meet the expected results. As long as all of your test cases are passing, it moves on. If they fail, we write a bug report, and we may have to hold back on deploying until that is fixed. Boom, solid. Damn. All right. Why are we yelling? Does the test case title have to be the same as expected result when we're trying to write the bug report? Not necessarily. They should correlate, right? But they don't need to be verbatim, word for word. I'm just busting your chops. You probably just hit the caps button. But the when you're writing a bug report, we'll go into how you would write a bug report. but the bug report will be very specific to an issue that you found or an inconsistency that you've discovered. So let's do a couple of these and just make sure everybody understands the flow. You all seem very bright, so I think this will be very easy for us to do. Let's think of something else that's very easy to accomplish within Google Photos. And that would be, you know what, Kelsey? Let's take it. Verify that a user can delete a photo in Google Photos. And if I guess I wanted to be very precise, I would say delete a photo from Google Photos, because who doesn't love somebody attacking your grammar? Goggle photos. Cool. Verify that a user can delete a photo from Google Photos. Cool. Preconditions. Do I have them? What are they? Manuela, yes, thank you. You have to have a photo if you're gonna delete one. Good stuff. You were quick on the draw with that one. Nice. Kelsey is, there you go. Am I getting clowned on by the class? All right. So steps to do this. This is actually a very good, we said that this is something that's very easy, Kelsey, but this is where writing out steps is important. Because if I asked everybody in the class right now, how do you delete a photo? I'd be willing to bet some good money you would not all say the same thing, because there are multiple ways to do this. So let's do this. We know that our first two steps are pretty much going to be the same, right? In order to delete a photo, you're going to need to go into the app. So you need to tap on the icon. Alexander, you said Control Alt Delete. I love that. Two would be you want to tap on a photo, right? So open the app. Cool. Which one of my photos deserves to die? Sure, you. So you want to go here. So then you want to tap on a photo. Okay. Now right here, everybody look in the chat. Look at what Manuela said and Idris said. We have two different people that have given us two different paths to take. That's exactly what I was going to point out. Not everybody is going to approach this in the same way. So that's just, I'm glad you two stacked your answers back to back there, because that's exactly why we want precision in our test cases. And to Connor's question, how do you write a test case if there are multiple ways to do something? You're going to write a test case for a specific path that you want to test. So that flow, that's going to have its own test case. Now, technically, if we go with the trash can icon down here, that is deleting the photo from a folder and moving it into the trash folder. If we do our meatball menu or our triple dot menu up here, that is a permanent removal of the photo from the device. So they are technically different things, okay? I see a lot of people talking about the trash can, and just for the sake of it's right here and people are talking about it, we'll go with that route. But if I wanted to say, delete a photo, tapping on this, move to trash, it will be removed from all folders. Yeah, if I do this and say delete from device, item will be permanently deleted, right? So these are two different paths. And Olga, they are even more than two different steps. They are two different avenues to take. These are two different actions, truly. So one could write a test case. What we'll do tonight is we'll write this test case for, the trash icon, and that's going to delete the photo. It's visually the most obvious one. Doesn't mean it's the only way to do it. You could also write a second test case and just say, make sure that a user can permanently delete a photo from the device. And then you could go up to the meatball menu. This is just a really good call out, and it's just a good example of why you need to be able to use precise language in your test case. So, for the sake of this, like I said, let's do the trash can method. So I would say on the bottom menu bar, tap the trash can icon. Very precise language, right? I think we all, if I just said, hey, delete the photo, 9 times out of 10, we're just going to mindlessly go through, be like, blah, 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 blah. I know how to do this, right? But that's not the business that we're in. We are in the business of being precise and using clarity and making sure that we can do this, making sure that someone else could do this. If we handed them this test case and they had never seen the application before, could you effectively guide someone through that path? I think that's a great way to think about, have you written an effective test case? Cool. So on the bottom menu bar, let's say we tap the trash can icon. Let's do it. And then you're going to have this confirmation pop up. So you would want to click move to trash. So let's finish up this test case. This is going to a tap on the, what did I just say? Move to trash. Confirmation pop up, I guess I would say. Yeah. Those would be my steps, right? And then the expected result. Again, the language in our expected result should very closely mimic or mirror our test case title. So a user is able to delete a photo from Google Photos. Boom. Ding. Does that make sense? Is everybody kind of understanding? I know this, for some people, this seems like child's play, certainly. But it is the formula that's important. It's the rhythm of a test case. It's understanding what each section is, why is it there, how do we write it, so on and so forth. Cool. Everybody says yes. Love it, love it, love it. Cool. Let's do another one. It's a little bit more complicated. User, not user, verify that a user can share a photo from the Goggle Pahotos. Come on, keyboard. Thank you. Cool. Who knows my precondition? You all know the precondition. Have a, thank you, Irene, and everybody else. Yes. Now, does every test case have a precondition? No, it does not. As is often the case, there will be some sort of a precondition. But there are times where it's just not necessary to have a precondition. Like you say you wanted to test a user creation, like verify that you can create a user account. You don't need to have a precondition for that. And you don't need to write user does not have a valid account. Like that doesn't really account. So in that situation, there is no precondition and you just want to be able to go through the account creation flow. So let's do this, but not those steps. So we know the first 2 steps are going to be the same. Of course, you go into your phone, your device, you tap the Google Photos icon, you tap on a photo. Yeah, let's use this one. So then from here, main user, how will we know a precondition is not necessary? I hate to say like you're gonna know, but you're gonna know. So it will be evident to you if you just sort of like, I'm not trying to be a jerk, right? But like use your common sense, use your logic. I hope everybody takes that in the most positive way possible. But yeah, like just sort of think it through logically. In some situations, you may be told what a precondition is. Like you're going to have your QA lead say like, well, you need to have X and Y in place, or you need to be registered for this. Cool, fine. But this is as easy as it looks. And so when you're on the job and you're in this position, you're going to know just intuitively, because you all use phones and stuff. You're going to be like, oh yeah, I need this. Will it hurt if we always use one? I mean, not hurt. It's not like you're getting like graded on your test cases, right? But Yeah, just apply a little bit of logic to it. Again, not every test case needs a precondition. Most of them will have one just by the nature of the beast, right? Cool. Manuela, I don't know if I can be the teacher for the rest of the lessons, but I probably will catch you at some point in another class. I hope so. This is a good group. I like this group. So tapping on a photo, then from here, right? If I was going to share a photo, most likely we're going to come down here, right? So I would say on the bottom menu bar, tap the share icon. And if you ask me to describe a share icon other than calling it a share icon, I don't know what I would say. Yeah, I don't know what I would say, but let's come over here. We tap. Let's say we want to text this to someone. So let's use the messages route. So in this pop-up, then we would tap the messages icon. And again, this is a situation where we want to be able to lead somebody through the process. So yes, you could do this for Gmail. You could do this, add a photo to Maps. In this situation, we're specifically writing a test case that's going to go through the message flow. So then from there, well, what the heck happened? I think we choose a contact. Yeah. So from there, how would I word this? Tap the contact that you want to share the photo with. Yeah, I think I'd say that. Now, again, this is the limitation of this being an emulator. I don't have any contacts on this emulator. It's not a real phone. There's no real contact list. But we would go through this and click that contact, and then we know that it would show up in that chat with the user, and we would just need to hit send, right, to actually send the photo out. So my final step would be tap send. So again, our expected result needs to very closely mirror our test case title. So in this scenario, should I be able to do that? I would say user ding. Cool. You know, Jordy, we could add that. Jordy says, would you say that you're sending through messages in your test case title? Yeah, we could. So, you know, we could actually amend this. In messages app. I don't know why that looked like I spelled it wrong for a second, but yeah. So yeah, you would go in there. So okay. I do have two things to point out here. User 14703. If I write down in precondition user needs to have the app, would that be correct? Again, we're going to put that in the category of like exceedingly obvious. So if we're testing the app, the implication is that we have that app. So we wouldn't need to write that down. However, I don't disagree with Manuela's call out. Precondition. You know, in the real world when we're testing, chances are you're going to have a contact list to share with. And also, again, this is a limitation of an emulator. If we did this in a real phone, we have a whole ton of options for how to share a photo. And we're not necessarily going to want to go through every single one of those, right? So if I say share, yeah, like there's a lot of ways that you can share a photo, right? We're not going to write a test case for every single one of them. But in this scenario, if I very specifically want to lead someone down this path of sharing via Messenger, then yes, I would want to say using the Messages app. That's a, you know, it's a good thing to point out. And again, like I said, like if you, like, I am not going to write a test case for every single one of these sharing options. That's absurd. Really what we're focused on here is the flow. And I think you're all intuiting very well what it is that you would need to see here. Matt asks, can we see an example of a negative test? I think a very easy example of a negative test, well, what would you be able to do in Google Photos? Google Photos does not really have many good negative tests. A very easy negative test is like someone not being able to log in to an app if they give the incorrect login information. And a precondition to that would be that you need to have a valid user account, and you would provide the username and password in the precondition when you were going to be writing out that test case. Yeah, that's a good call out. Google Photos, like we've made this so simplistic that it would be difficult to write a good valid negative test case for Google Photos. Yeah. Lee, did you have a moment? What happened? Oh, I see. Yep. How do we know the flow of the software if we're testing the results? Yep. I got you. Yeah, I mean, Matt, like it wouldn't necessarily apply to this, but let's say that, like, you know, I would say verify user cannot enter the app with correct login info. User account is created, and then so there's my account information, and then it would be like tap the Matthew app icon, and then I'm not even numbering my steps. I'm just doing this for your amusement. So that on the login screen, enter credentials different from given account info, and then I would probably give an example. So I would say like test account 124 at yotmail.com, and then test. So something like that. So give incorrect information here, and then expected results. User is given a denial prompt. Wow. Something like that. Does that make sense? I know I kind of just like flew through that, but like that would be like a negative test case, something like that. Good stuff. Would restoring a deleted photo count as a negative test? No, because the language might be a little bit confusing there. A negative test is, or let me reword this, like a standard test, you want to ensure that you can go through a flow and get a desired outcome or an assumed outcome. The restoring a negative photo, like that still is a positive test, right? Because your goal is to verify that you can restore that photo. And if you can restore that photo, it's just a test case. The negative refers to, largely it refers to like what happens with error handling or incorrect data handling. That's honestly, that's the simplest way that I would say is to think about it. Negative test case would be surrounding incorrect, the handling of incorrect inputs or incorrect data. That's a good, yeah, it's a good question. Yes. What if the photo size is too big for the Google format? Well, then fair play. We might, you know, you could get creative around that. Again, this is like, so it's almost like too simple. I'm extrapolating a little bit, but like maybe you had like a video that was stored in your Google Photos, and you wanted to verify, I guess this is like a real world example. So like Gmail, you can't add attachments larger than like 25 megabits or something like that. So you could have a video that's like way bigger than that. And you would want to, you're almost doing a positive test, but like validating that you can't attach that video to the email. And you'd kind of want to be checking that you're getting the error messaging show up correctly. Even that is a little janky, but yeah, you're just writing regular test cases 99% of the time. I wouldn't even get bogged down too much into like the positive versus negative. I honestly, like, I've been at the company I'm at now for almost 2 years. I don't think I've seen a negative test case. But let's give a good example of, let's do this. Verify that a user can, what would I want to do? Create a new album in Google Photos. Guess what a precondition for creating an album in Google Photos is? Oh, so close, so close. Asif got it. You need to have a photo. The requirements for making an album in Google Photos is one photo. I knew I would get you there. Yeah, I'm just being a jerk. So let's take this. Actually, you wouldn't even tap on a photo. Well, no, you would tap on a photo. So what you would do, and again, this is the like hold my hand principle, right? I think if I just handed you a phone and said like, hey, can you make a new album with this photo in it? You would just know it. You would just kind of do it like just in your sleep. But you're gonna walk someone through this as if they were completely foreign to it. Like this is an alien app and they've never seen it before. You just want to hold their hand and make sure that you can get them through all the steps. So I made this album, well, like last week, super cool folder, because obviously it's a super cool folder. Yes, Jordy, explaining it to your parents, explaining it to someone that's not tech savvy. That's a very good way of thinking about it. So let's see. In the, in the upper right corner, tap the meatball menu. Again, so I'm calling this the meatball menu. That's, it's just a term. You could also call it the triple dot menu, totally. And then we would tap create new album. I don't know why I need to spell everything very slowly tonight. Enter a name for the new album. I missed a number on there. How dare I? And then I think you would just want to confirm the new album. So tap confirm to create the new album. Yes, explaining it to your grandma and grandpa. So that would be that. And then the expected result, right? A new album. Why did it give me extra space in there? Whatever, it looks fine. Cool, got it. That is the that is actually the kebab menu. Yeah, fair play. What happens if you come across a confusing test case? Has that ever happened? I think it'll be pretty rare, but if you come across a test case that is confusing or you don't fully understand it, This is an advantageous part of working in tech. People are helpful. People are friendly. If you don't get how a test case is able to be executed, you can ask one of your peers or ask your manager and just say, hey, I'm trying to validate this test case to the best of my ability. I have tried this and that. I just don't think I'm doing this quite right. Can you help me out? That's the easiest way to figure that out, right? People are collaborative. It's a very friendly environment. People are always like willing to help you out. They're pretty good about that. So that's that. So you know, if I were going to go do this now, Asif, again, I hope I'm saying your name somewhat correctly here. Let's answer your prayers. So, fun fact, I very recently made this super cool folder with these super cool photos in it. Look how cool they are. Now, if I were to follow my own test steps, I would tap on the Google Photos icon, boom, tap on a photo, cool. Go to the upper right corner and then tap Create New Album. Check this out. What happened? I was told to go to this menu and tap Create New Album. There's no Create New Album. It's a bug. Olga, yes, you get 5 points. Nice. We have a bug. And I know this worked recently because I was able to make a folder here. But something broke in this Google Photos app. Boo. So we need to write a bug for that because we don't have the ability to make an album. Cool. So where is Carlos? Who's that? Initiate bug report. Yes, launch the bug report. And so to do that, we need Jira. He loves to point out the bugs. There he is. Carlos, I'm here. That's awesome. I'm glad you have a representative in the group here that likes to write up some bug reports. So that's a bad time. We can't make an album. And so we would want to jump into Jira and create a bug report for this. Now, spoiler alert, I've taught this class already. So I have already written this ticket. And it looks like this. So what we would want to do, and in fact, I attached an unnecessary crash log to this. We don't need that. So this would be the bug that I would write for this issue, okay? So as a bracketed item, I would put in, what is it that I was using? So Google Photos. You may also modify this and say like, it's only on Android or it's only on iOS or what environment did you find it in? You might want to add some additional information in here. But I would say user is unable to create new photo album. And I don't know why I capitalized photo album. When trying to create a new photo album, I see that the menu option is missing. That stinks. So then I go through these very basic 3 steps. I want to put in my steps to reproduce. And someone asked this earlier about the matching the bug title to our test case title. This is somewhere where they're close, right? Like I was trying to verify that a user can create a new album, and I'm saying that the user is unable to create a new photo album. It just happens to play in very similarly, but don't get caught up in those details. Don't sweat like, does this bug match this test case? Because in the real world, when you're actually out in the field doing this, you're probably going to find a bug more often than not without a test case. You're going to have found it because you were just doing a round of testing. Remember when we talked about in the slideshow that a lot of your testing is exploratory? Chances are decent that you found this just through hitting it with a battery of tests that you are running pretty regularly. So don't worry about trying to match them up exactly. You're just using your intuition, right? So like, what happened? Why did it not do the thing? I want to do the thing. So steps to reproduce. Again, hold their hand. Tap the Google Photos icon. Tap on a photo. Click the triple dot menu. The expected result is that user could tap Create Album. Okay. Now I know this because I've done this before. I've used this emulator and I've made a new album. So I know that it was a function. The actual result is that it's missing. Okay. And to Dre's question, how can we know 100% if it's a bug and not a feature that it lacks by design? That's a great question. And the answer is you might not know. You can write up a bug. I've done this. I did this week. I found an issue where I was like, clearly this is broken. Like, no way are we letting this live like this in the wild. I wrote a bug report, sent it off to the engineers, and I heard back, hey, actually, this is working as designed. Because of the limitations of blah, 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 we're unable to implement this function. And so now, like, we have changed our requirements. This is now working as designed. Okay, I didn't know this. Good stuff. So you can absolutely write a bug if you think it's supposed to work a certain way. Again, we're using our intuition, our logic, our previous experience, our big brains, and you can intuit typically what is supposed to work. Again, this is a little bit of a cheat because I have made an album on here before, so I know that's how it's supposed to work. But just for kicks, let me, yeah. So I know in my phone, if I go up to that menu up there, and if I tap on that dot, my very first option right over here is add to album. And then within there, I'm able to create a new album. So again, we could just sort of logic our way into that answer. But these are the things you would want to write. Steps to reproduce, expected result, actual result. Do you need to make it look pretty like this? No, I just like colors, as you can tell. So from there, you want to put in your testing environment. Now, this is going to be the hardware that you're using, the operating system that you're on, and the app version. So again, remember what I said, you don't need the app version when you're over here writing out your test case, because that's going to change all the time. Like every time you have a new version of the app, that's going to change. So you don't need to put that in the test case. But in your bug report, you do want to put in the app version right here. And then you want to attach screenshots. We love screenshots. Look at this. Boo, it's missing. Boo. That's pretty much it. And then you could send this out to the developer. I might get it back and say like, oh, it was fixed. I would then come back and retest it. And someone would say like, tested the latest build, blah, 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 and the bug is still actual. Then you can just send it back and then see if they can fix it on round 2. Are you allowed to make it pretty? Absolutely. We love good looking things. And that's very easy. What you do, so when you go to create a bug, right? Let's go to selected thing here, and then test bug. I don't know. No, let's call it this. Not a real bug. All right, sue me. What you do in the description portion right here, you click on this eye. This is called an info panel. All right, boom, 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 blast out a bunch of those things. This is an info panel. So, yeah. Cool. See what I just did there? If you're typing and you're like, blah, 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 and then you make a typo in your little OCD, so you want to fix it. If you have your typer or your cursor here and you're typing and then you hit info panel, boom, it automatically wraps it up into that next info panel. Okay. So right here, if I click on this, you have a series of options. You have info, note, success, warning, error. So the way that I would write something out in reality, I would be description of what I want to find. And then these are your STRs, so your steps to reproduce. This one, maybe I'll change this to note. This can just be info. This would be my actual result. Nope, that's wrong. That would be my expected result. Yay, it's green, we're happy. and then actual result, boo, go home. So that is how you are able to change those. So you just click on your info panel, make it whatever color you want. Everybody's happy. Cool. Again, do you need to do this? No. But as we said in our test case, Carlos wants colors. So there you go. And then you go to your, this is obviously not a real test case, but there you are. That's what it will look like once you've actually written it out. Of course, you want to assign this to an engineer and you want to give it some labels and, highest priority for you, all the good stuff. Cool. So again, to review, if we were writing that one for Google Photos, this is what I would expect a bug report to look like. Brief description, STRs, expected result, actual result, testing environment. Oh, let me highlight you. Testing environment, and then attachments. Attachments are super, super important. We love visuals. Please include them. Cool. Let's see. All right, here's the deal. We've covered everything that we need to cover tonight, and we are also 9 minutes ahead of our expected cutoff time. So I will say this, if you have questions, we have 9 minutes left. I will stick around for the next 9 minutes. If you have any questions, and you can let me know if you need to review something or just if you have a general question, about life, I'll try to cover that for you. But I do want to respect your time. So if you have no questions and you feel like you've absorbed all of the information we went over tonight, I will say you're good to go, especially the people that are on the East Coast. Go to bed. But I'm happy to stick around. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether or not 'tis nobler to suffer the slings and stones of outrageous fortune. Yeah, you didn't know, did you? And those are real lines. So yeah, for everybody that had a good lesson here tonight, have a great night, and I hope to see you all again in a future lesson. And really nice job. This was a very engaged group. I did like this. For the people that have questions, let's see how we can cover this. Deidre, how can you find the app version? So very typically, whenever you're on your phone, and keep in mind, this is our silly little emulator. What I would do is, oh my goodness, where are you? You could go to settings and apps. Usually it's like the newer operating systems. This is a little easier to find. But come to all of your apps, find out all of your listed applications, and then find, I didn't skip it. Find the app here and scroll to the bottom, and you'll have a version of the app down here, and that's what you would attach to your ticket. Manuela has a tornado warning. Oh my God. Is that ongoing? Because I'm supposed to be there in 2 weeks. That could be complicated. Please stay safe. I hope you're going to be all right there. But yeah, charge the phone, take care of yourself, and don't have any tornadoes when they come there soon. Yeah, so that's how you would find your app version there. It's a good question. What else? What else? The lesson today just made so much sense. Olga, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, really glad to hear that. After you create the bug, how do you assign it to the developer? That's very easy. So when you're making the ticket, typically you would do that in the middle of creating it. If you happen to miss that, you can go back into your ticket or your bug report, just click, and then you want to come over here and you want to go to the assignee, and you can put in whoever you're going to be assigning that to. Okay. It's best to do this while you're creating the ticket, but totally easy to do it afterwards. And this is also a little bit limited. There are more options when you actually have your enterprise version of Jira, there's some more things that you can do in here. Like, yeah, there's more fields in here. You can define what sprint it's in, what labels it has attached to it. Fixed versions. If there is a fix for this coming down the line, developers might put a fixed version in here, but we don't really need to entertain that tonight. Let's see. All right, easy question to answer, Lee. Does the title QA engineer require coding? It does not. It absolutely does not. A person I was talking to earlier was adamant that QA engineer requires some coding, and I said, no, it doesn't. You are correct. You can stand correct. If you are a QA, if you're an automation QA, that will require some code. Does it hurt to know a little code? No. But any kind of code, like if you need some sort of like a code snippet to put into the console to find some sort of information, that's provided to you by a developer or an engineer. So like, you don't need to know that code. But you are totally correct. Other Brandon, awesome. Brandon number 2, graduate from where? Careerist? Yes, I graduated from this program several years ago, which is why when I got out and got my jobs, and after some time in the field was like, you know what, this has been a great opportunity. I wish more people knew about this, and thankfully they are finding out about it. But also I wanted to be able to speak from a voice of experience, someone that has been through the course, done the internship, gotten the job, started from scratch in tech, and just be able to talk about that real life experience, because I know the feeling of being in lesson 8 and you're like, what am I doing? Is this going to make sense? Is this real? Can I do this? So on and so forth. And then how long did it take me to find a job? Well, here's the challenge for the remaining people that are still here. I guess you don't need to be looking at my screen, do you? But it took me 24 days from my first application submitted to when I accepted the offer that I got. I got 2 offers. I accepted one of them, obviously, but it took me 24 days. Is that going to be everybody's experience? No. That's just my experience. And I don't know, maybe it's because I talk a lot, maybe it's because I'm just so adorable, but in reality, it's going to come down to a combination of, do you know the content from the course? How well have you prepared using the interview preparation guidelines that we give you? So there'll be a video, there's a document, memorize that stuff, write it down, like listen to yourself answering those questions, go over the top 20 most commonly asked questions and answers. Review them. Be a crazy person, stand in the bathroom, look in the mirror, listen to yourself answering these questions, maybe hate the sound of your voice, but go through it, know that stuff forward and backwards, upside down. Another thing is you don't want to be a robot, you're a person. So when you are in these interviews, of course, give the right answers, like give technical explanations, show that you know how to do the work, that, a college degree, not that important. A certificate, not that important. The thing that's important is, can you provide the service that they're looking for? They're looking for someone to do QA for them. Can you do QA for them? So show that you're proficient. And what I mean by like, don't be a robot is like, your personality counts. Your personal experience matters. And I'm not saying give them your life story, but like, you are your own person. So they are looking for someone that fits the team in a technical way, but they're also looking for someone that's going to fit their work culture. And so, be who you are, make sure that that is going to work for their team. Yeah. And so, okay. So again, my other Brandon, I have many doubts, to be honest, just very stressed. And that, again, that's why I wanted to come back and be an instructor after going through this course. Yeah, I had those uncertainties when I first got out, and I was like, can I do this? What the hell did I just do? But it is absolutely doable. There are hundreds of jobs being posted every single day. This is a growth industry, and it doesn't matter if you have a technical background or not. Like, this is something that you can do. Absolutely. And again, like I didn't have a technical background coming into this at all. So I know that feeling, and I want to give a voice to that feeling, but like let you know, yeah, it's okay to feel a little anxious or doubtful, but don't dwell on that and don't let that impact your decisions. Move forward with confidence that you know what you're doing, and you'll be able to do it. Connor, good question. Can you explain priority versus severity? Yeah, so priority, they're pretty closely tied in, and it's going to depend on your company how they use these terms. But a short answer that I could give you tonight is that priority is going to be how important is it that we get this done, versus severity, which is used more for when we're using severity, that typically tends to be for like systemic issues. So issues that are impacting larger components or larger platforms. So as an example, like I might give a ticket, a bug ticket, a priority, like medium, high, or maybe highest or something like that. If something has crashed or broken or is majorly impacting the functionality of our service, that I would give a severity rating to. And again, that's just the way that our company uses these terms, but I think that that's probably a good way to think about it for sure. Christina, the top 20 questions, you're going to get that in the course. You may, well, no, you probably didn't receive it yet, but like in a few lessons, we have a document of like at least the top 100 most commonly asked questions in interviews, and then appropriate ways to answer that. So the top 15 or 20 probably will make up 80% of the questions that you're going to hear in an interview. And so those are the ones that I tell you to focus on, or we tell you to focus on. It's not just me. Know those ones like front and back, write them down. I'm not going to lie to you. I did my very first interview with those questions like written out, like in front of me, like right here on the screen, just off camera, because I was super nervous. It turns out I didn't need them, and they actually were a little bit more of a distraction than anything else. But I felt a little comfortable having them there. But knowing that content is really what's going to make you shine in an interview. So you'll get those soon, pretty close down the line. And I see two people talking about a lot of the job postings, and this is true. A lot of the job postings say that they require 2 to 3 years of work experience for the application. They say that like a bunch of nonsense. What a lot of companies are doing is they're just going to say, take the same the job description, very templated. They might not have changed it for a long time, or they're just copy and pasting from something else that they already had. This is them looking for something called like a unicorn applicant. So they're going to say like, yeah, we have an entry-level QA job, or maybe like an even intermediate QA level job, and we want you to have 3 years experience, and it'd be nice if you knew some JavaScript and you have a decent portfolio. You know some front-end code, you've helped launch blah blah blah, decent understanding of SQL, so on and so forth, working with APIs, and they're going to list out this whole laundry list of stuff. This is the search for the unicorn. So they want this person who's like this optimal, ideal, utopian applicant. You don't need to meet all of the qualifications of that job posting in order to apply for it. And I will say this, the work experience that you get from your internship, you should be able to present that in a way that it satisfies the needs of that company. Now you're not, there really is no need for you to go in there and be like, well, I did this job for 9 months and I did this job for 18 months and I have this degree. That's very trivial. It's very unimportant. As someone who has hired dozens of people in other capacities and other careers, I can tell you that that's very unimportant. The number one thing that's important to them is, are you displaying to them that you can take care of the tasks that they need covered? So does your knowledge, do you appear competent, and do you appear confident? Are you giving answers that let them feel comfortable hiring you, that you can do the job that they are hiring for? That's it. Like, that's what I care about when I hire people. That is what people have cared about when they hired me at my first job. They told me in my first performance review when I was getting a raise, They said you did not meet all of the requirements that we were looking for in this job posting. But we're very happy we chose you because you have shown the capacity to do the job, hands down, and also you're a great fit for the company culture. So that matters. That holds water. I don't want to rant too much longer about that, but it kind of, people get limited, or people have this apprehension when they see these job postings and they say, I want this miracle applicant to come and apply for us. You don't need to be that miracle person. You just need to be the person that they choose. Let's see. And I think this answers your question. Sakta says, would I get hired even if I show I haven't been in the industry for too long? There are objectively smart ways to build your resume and build your LinkedIn profile to show your work experience and show your core competencies and your skill sets in a way where you're not focused on time, you're focused on your proficiencies. And you're going to work with your mentors. Once you're done with like the base part of this program, you go into your internships. And once you've completed the internships, you work with your mentors, and they're going to be the ones that help you craft that information, just like they did with me. There is a right and appropriate way to present that information. And I'll save that explanation for when they get to that point. Karen is leaving the mortgage industry. Nice, good. Yeah, this is, I dare say this is I think it's more interesting for sure. And it's nice to not feel like you need to meet quotas every month. Is your company okay with QA using Stack Overflow? Never say never. I can't think of a reason that you would need Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is for developers, people writing code, and that's not you. Yeah, totally fair question, but yeah, I don't think that is applicable to what you'll be doing. And like if you're a developer, yeah, like everybody uses Stack Overflow. It is a very well-known, well-documented fact that developers don't understand everything that they write. Like it's so much of writing code is like, sure, like grabbing stuff from Stack Overflow, like grabbing functions, grabbing for loops, grabbing API hooks, but knowing how to implement it is the important part. But we don't do that, so don't worry about it. Sandra, how is your remote schedule? So just talking about work schedule, being remote, being in the office, it's a 40-hour a week, 9 to 5 kind of thing, right? So whether you're a contractor or a W-2 salaried employee, you're basically working like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. The beauty of remote work is that you don't have any commute, and you have a whole kitchen that you can cook in. You have your own home bathroom that nobody else uses. At lunchtime, you can get up and walk around and see, speak with your loved ones or go work out or grab lunch or whatever you want to do. Your time is very much more in your control. So those are huge benefits. It's not the kind of thing where you're going to be working overtime. It's not the kind of thing where you're working weekends to like hit numbers. To clarify, it's not the kind of job you just do whenever you want. Like you work a working day, right? So you're here at your desk from like 9 to 5, thereabouts. That doesn't mean you have to do stuff during that whole 8 hours. You might not have things to do where you're like pounding keys for 8 hours straight. But yeah, that's the schedule overall, like in a word, is great. It's fantastic. Let's see. Do I think that the current job market is oversaturated with manual QA engineers? It is certainly becoming more populated with people looking for jobs, but there are also a ton of jobs being posted. There are hundreds of jobs being posted. And if you do feel like you're seeing, say you put out 300 applications and you're like, I'm not seeing enough new positions to apply to, you start to branch out into other job boards. That's Indeed is not the only place in the world that you apply to a job. LinkedIn is not the only place in the world that you apply to a job. So I think that you're going to have the opportunity to apply to hundreds of jobs. I sent out 300 applications over 2 weeks, so you absolutely can do that as well. But if you feel like you're exhausting those listings, then there are plenty of other job boards to go look at as well. Clarice asked a little bit earlier on, was I tempted to accept both jobs at once? And that feeds into Christina's question. Can you do two QA jobs at once since it's remote? This is I'm not going to say it's a delicate question, but it's a very interesting question. The short answer is no to both of you. I was not tempted because I was brand new to the industry. I certainly was not about to take on 2 full-time jobs at the same time in a brand new industry that I was completely fresh in. That's not a good move, and I don't recommend any of you do that. You really do want to get a solid amount of time built up on the ground at your first job, learn the tools, learn the lingo, learn development cycles, learn how to work with your peers, troubleshooting, overcoming objections, finding out, edge cases, things like that. Then let's say, down the road, 6 months, a year, if you feel like truly you've learned everything that there is to learn at your job and you have a ton of free time on your hands and you think you can handle it, I'm not your boss and I'm not your lawyer. So I can't give you advice one way or another. But I will tell you it is a very interesting prospect and it's not impossible for some people to do it. The technical term that you are discussing is called overemployment, and there are websites and boards where people discuss how to successfully be overemployed. It's probably as far as I'm going to take that because it is a gray area and I don't want to give you advice that's too leading, but not every company is super chill with it. I'll tell you that. Is it possible to do 2 jobs at the same time? Yes, it is. But you need to be pretty stress averse. Think about how you would handle it if you were required to be on 2 different Zoom calls at the same time and you need to present information to 2 different managers at the same time. Think about how you would feel with that. What if you need to be on a deployment call and you need to be running tests for something while you're also answering questions for another teammate in a different company? So on and so forth. So not impossible. Was I tempted initially? No. Do I find the idea of overemployment interesting? Yeah. I have my full-time job in the day. I teach part-time. I have side projects. So I certainly like the idea of finding multiple avenues for yourself, for sure. Sandra, let's get some real quick questions in here and then we'll call it a night. How is the remote schedule? It's fantastic. I don't think I ever want to work in an office again. To what we were talking about earlier, it's a 9 to 5, but your commute is within your apartment and you can get home cooked food all the time and you can go to the gym or something on your free time. Is the pay good? Yes, the pay is very good. I started at 70,000 a year and now my base is over 110. So that's a base that doesn't include bonuses or paid time off or your compensation package, like your healthcare, medical, dental, stuff like that, 401ks, things like that. So yeah, I'm happy with my salary. Like the pay that I get for what I do is fantastic. What else? Alexander, you are welcome. Absolutely. Very glad to have you here. Let me get like 1 or 2 more questions and then we'll wrap this up. Are deployments stressful? This is a question from Lee. Generally, no. Like they're not very stressful. You're going to have a team of people that are there with you on the deploy. I will tell you that when you're new to a company, it's going to feel more stressful just because you're fresh to it. You don't have experience. You don't have like hands-on time. It's like, like driving a car or riding a bike. Like the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel with it. And that stress goes away. Not going to lie to you. You probably in your first month will be like, oh my God. but it will be fine. You can rely on your teammates to help you out. And also, I just generally feel like you'll be able to handle it for sure. Absolutely. Let's see. Is there any other things that I need to touch on? I think we pretty much got everything here. Yeah, and I did keep you guys a little bit longer than expected. I don't typically do that. So I think we hit everything in here, right? So that being said, I'm going to say probably let's wrap things up here. This has been a great class, genuinely. I think that you're all very engaged, and I can tell that you're all very curious about this. It's a great field to be in. It's a great opportunity. Just real talk. I'm very happy I made the switch to tech, and I'm glad I went with QA, and I'm glad I'm able to be here to help you guys through this process. So if there's anything else that came up, don't be afraid to find me on LinkedIn. Shoot me a question if you have something burning in the back of your mind. But for right now, let's call it a night. Hope you all have a good one. And I might catch you in another lesson further on during the course. All right. Take care, everybody.